Welcome back, everybody. This is your coach, JY, and happy springtime to all you junior tennis parents, players, and coaches out there. We're finally hitting that beautiful time of the year where it's a great time to watch matches, play matches, coach tennis, everything in relation to this sport. A lot of us have been in a long winter, and it's great that we can finally get out there and really enjoy this sport a little bit more without having to have 10 layers on. And so thank you for tuning in and just giving me a little bit of your time so I can talk some more junior tennis and hopefully, help some people out and bring some more helpful thoughts and perspectives to your situations. And this week I want to talk about the emotional side of things, the uncomfortable situations that we're going to encounter in junior tennis, the parts that, we talk so much about, the forehand, backhand, the things that go on within that, but there's a lot more that goes on that affects our enjoyment of the game, whether we're the coach, player, or parent. And after being to so many different level ones, level fives, level threes, level sixes, really come to the conclusion that I just think we have to pick our junior tennis poison. And I know that's a little bit of an aggressive thought process right there. It is just junior tennis. It is kids. But I just thought it was the best way to kind of frame it, because a lot of times we want to have everything and we can't. And there are things that we just have to sacrifice if high performance tennis, success at the highest level in junior tennis is the child's goal. All right. Because we can't always have a quiet and respectful environment that also contains the best junior competitors in the world, while they're going through puberty and their hormones are running wild. And we have parents that don't know what the process is like and aren't being educated on it and don't know exactly how to be the best junior tennis parents. And we're going to talk about parents a little bit later on. We'll talk about the players first right now. And it's important to keep in mind the best competitors live on the edge. They're all in physically and emotionally, and considering that right now we're just talking about kids, they're all immature to some degree. And we're asking kids to be the best competitors they can be, live on the edge, be all in physically and emotionally, but they're also immature. And if they get upset, it's going to be hard to always control it. I get parents that a lot of times like, oh, they're starting to get negative again. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, they're down 6-1, 4-1. I mean, I don't imagine a kid to be very happy at that point. It's going to be hard for them to be totally neutral like Federer and Nadal and just be so professional about it. If they're all in, it's hard. They're on the edge. And they're going to have emotional outbursts from time to time. And if we can't handle that as coaches, but especially as parents, we're going to have to reconsider the pathway that we're allowing that child to go on. It's not fair to them to only be either completely neutral or positive all the time. Now, I'm not saying that emotional outbursts by the kids shouldn't be addressed. By all means, look, developing emotional control is going to be key to their success. But they're just kids. And if you're expecting kids to only display positive emotions and nothing negative, but somehow want them to be all in physically and emotionally so that they can compete at the highest levels, while an opponent is trying to purposely ruin their day, it's not going to happen, at least not at the highest levels. They're going to encounter matches that are too tough, and it's going to be hard for them. All right. And we have to understand that. We have to give them a little bit of room to make mistakes. Yes, correct them, but we have to understand the territory they're in. The only junior tennis players I've ever seen never have any negative outbursts at all are the ones who are not competing to the max. Not coincidentally, they're the worst competitors. They're also the nicest competitors. They're the ones who allow their opponents to make multiple bad calls before they ever get a referee. They're the ones who are they're not happy when they lose, but you'll never have to worry if they're taking it too hard and too far and just smashing rackets and crying all the time. That's not them. All right. They're also the ones that never progress to a level high enough where they encounter opponents that have tough parents. Tough parents that unfortunately get too involved in matches, creating uncomfortable atmospheres that make you question if high performance junior tennis is the right pathway for your child. When they start saying that your child is a cheater, or they start yelling at their kid in the middle of the match, and just really create an uncomfortable atmosphere. All right. Because for the most part, those junior tennis parents many speak about exist mostly at the highest levels. They're not going to be at your level 7s and 6s and most level 5s or USTA junior team matches where it's mostly beginners. For the most part, they're at the highest levels, the level 1s, the 2s, the 3s, and the ITFs, where they're spending so much money, they're putting in so much time, they're traveling everywhere. These parents have some really high expectations for their kids and they want to see progress. And just like I mentioned earlier, that playing at a high level doesn't give a kid the right to have a bad attitude, right? Those emotional outbursts still need to be addressed. They're not okay. Parents attending high level tournaments don't have a right to be nasty and put pressure and have unreasonable expectations and yell at their kids and get involved and call opponents cheaters just because they're spending a lot of money to be there, right? I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that if you only want nice and quiet parents all the time and nice and respectful matches where everyone's nice to each other and they give each other calls and no one ever yells at each other saying they're cheaters, you're just going to have to stick to tournaments where progressing is not that important. It's the biggest difference I've noticed when comparing my experiences at the highest levels versus the lowest level ones. It's so peaceful at the lower level ones. It's just so nice. It's relaxing. But unfortunately, most of those kids that I've seen will not be playing any high level college tennis. Not because they weren't great players yet, but because they weren't great competitors. And that's what I noticed when I was at these lower level tournaments. You could just tell they do not train at a high enough level to make any kind of jump in their level. Earlier in the year, I went to a level 5 where there was only one player where I felt was actually hungry enough to achieve something in tennis. They had huge commands. They were sprinting from side to side. They were getting upset at each other when they made mistakes, and they didn't perform up to their expectations. They were starving to move up. You could just tell they wanted to win so bad. Everyone else, complete silence. Oh, bummer. I missed. Oh, couple of negative reactions. No huge commands. All right. Never was a referee called to the court for any match. I mean, and I'm telling you, kids were not making perfect calls. And yet, for some reason, kids just never felt the need to go get a referee. And really, it's because they didn't care enough. They don't want to deal with it. They'd rather have a nice, quiet environment. The parents didn't care either. They mentioned it to them after the match. Hey, should have gotten a ref. That's what I had to do to a player. Hey, should go get a ref. But progressing and winning and fighting and learning how to compete was not that a big deal to everyone. I'm not saying it's wrong. But if you're trying to make it to the highest levels of junior tennis, that is a problem. And again, I think it's best when parents are quiet, unemotional, and are not overreacting to their child's level of play and saying, oh, you got to go get a ref and being mad that they lost. But I don't think it's a coincidence. The quietest and most relaxing, competitive environments I've encountered at junior tournaments are at the lowest levels. Now, my dream is to have enough parents and players educated at the highest levels and everywhere on how to behave and act so that we can have beautiful environments at all those stages. I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. And the fact is that when athletes are all in physically and emotionally competing on the edge, things are going to get wild from time to time. So you have to pick your poison. Every time I attend a high-level event, boom, kids are screaming left and right. Boom, referees are being called to the court every 2 minutes. Boom, loud commands from everywhere, even from the parents, right? They're emotionally involved. Again, whether it's right or wrong, that's not the point, all right? And you still have some kids even screaming at their parents. to go away and leave them alone. Right? You don't see that at the lowest levels, but at the highest levels, you hear it everywhere. At least we all know those kids, right? It happens. Code violations are being given out. You'll see tears after matches and even during matches. You won't see that at the lowest levels, though. And yet, everywhere I look at these high-level tournaments, I see some form of high-level college tennis in the future for these kids. Everyone is running at full speed, putting in full effort, asking more themselves when they lose more points, and they're clearly starving for progress. It's the complete opposite of what I see at lower-level tournaments. So I think parents need to decide which poison they'd rather have. If you're going to support your child's dreams of playing high-level tennis, you're going to encounter some uncomfortable situations with emotional kids or parents, whether it be your own or their opponents, and it's going to provide for some miserable experiences. And you're going to have to decide if it's worth dealing with again and again. Again, it doesn't happen most of the time. I'd say over 90% of matches are totally fine. But you're going to encounter that either week to week at least once, or at least every month at least once. There's just no avoiding it if your child really wants to make it to the top and you're going to support them. And for those who are considering avoiding that atmosphere because you think it's an unhealthy one for a child to spend their extracurricular time in, again, this is a personal choice, but I want you to keep this in mind. Adulthood is coming. And to succeed as an adult, people are going to have to learn how to fight for themselves. They're going to have to learn how to compete in the workspace, learn how to overcome adversity, learn how to work hard enough to provide for themselves or their families. They're going to get fired at some point. They're going to encounter unfriendly coworkers or bosses at some point. They're going to have to deal with people going behind their backs to move ahead of them in the corporate ladder. They're going to have to deal with uncomfortable situations. They're going to have to deal with adversity. And they're going to have a choice to make. Either fight to survive or play nice all the time and let the world run them over. If they choose to fight, they're going to need to have the skills to solve those problems. Would you rather have them learn how to fight, compete, and survive under the guidance of parents and coaches in a safe household, or out there on their own as an adult? I just think you have to pick your poison. You can't have it all. Maybe one day, not now. Good luck out there.